Tov. Today's Daf Yomi is Bava Basra Ayin Gimel, Bava Basra 73. Today's Daf Yomi is dedicated for a Shmir for the Chayolim, Hatzal for the Shvuyim, and Yeshua for Am Yisrael on this Eis Tzara. In the Daf Yomi, we start the new chapter of Hamochar Es Asfina. This may be the most unusual daf in all of Shas, as you'll see why in a moment. But first, we start the new chapter, one who sells a ship. This is the daf for Rav Hillel's father, Dr. Brazen, who worked on ships for many years. Hamocher es hasfina, one who sells a ship, mocher es haTorah, and then we assume that within the ship is included the mast, vesanes, the sail, vesaugen, the anchors, as kol manhigin, and all the things that lead the ship, that drive the ship. It's kol manhigin osa. Avalo mocher v'os havadim v'os martufim was antiki, but he has not sold the slaves, the come along with the ship, or the sacks that hold the cargo, and also he has not sold the sacks that hold the cargo and the cargo itself. So the Gemara says, "Ubizman sha'amar lo." That, but when he says, I'm selling it and everything in it, and everything is going to be sold within it. So first the Gemara defines what is this Torah. It is an iskira. It is the mast. It says that the cedar from Lebanon, they brought the cedars to make into a mast. And nace, what is the nace? This is the idra, this is the sail. So too it says, Sheish berikma mitzrayim haya mifrasach lanes, that the linen they took as a sail from Egypt to spread out as a sail. And ugin, what is the ugin? This is anchor. Tani Reb Chia elo uginin shel. These are its anchors. Achenu omer hawain tesaberna. Naomi says to Ruth, and Naomi says to Ruth and to Orpah, even if I have children, will you wait for them? You'll be anchored. You'll be an aguna. Manhigin, what is the manhigin? Amar Rabbi Abba ilo hamishotin. These are the oars. Mishotin shalom. These are its oars. Chaynu omer. The oaks from Bashan made your oars. Or alternatively, what's a source that the manhigin are the oars, or the mashotin are the oars? It says it went down from the ships, anyone who was holding an oar. So then the Gemara says, Tan Rabbanan, Hamochar Sasfina, one who sells this ship, has also included machar as askila, the spora mayim shebesocha, has sold also the askila. This is like the ramp, the plank that lets you onto the ship. The spora mayim shebesocha. They've also sold the reservoir of water that's contained within the ship. We know that Omar mochar sasvina mochar sabitzis. He says they've sold the bitzis. Sumchos Omar mochar sasvina mochar sadugis. He sold the dugas. So what is the bitzis and what is the dugas? So Rama says they're the same thing. Bitzis and dugas, what are they? That the large ship can't get into port, it's too big. So they have to ferry people to the shore with a smaller boat. So that's the bitzis and the dugas. Rabbi Nazim Bavoa Havekarwe bitzis, he called this dugas the bitzis, Kedami Inchi Butzitzis to Me'ashan. Is the butzitzis of Me'ashan. And Sumchos, Devar Israel, Sumchos was from Israel, Karilei Dugas, he called it Dugas, Kedelsev, Achritchen, Besiros Duga. So now the Gemara is going to make a sharp turn and bring different wondrous stories that talk about the greatness of God that are told by Rabba Bar Chana, 21 stories. These are stories that stretch our imagination. Some say we have to take them literally, and some say no, they're just, everyone says that these stories are meant to teach us deep lessons. The question is whether or not they also actually happened. We're not required by Jewish faith to believe they actually happened, but some of the Rishonim and Achronim say they did actually happen. But this is these are stories that need to be understood in great depth. And if you want to read a book about it in English, you read the book by Rav Aaron Feldman, which is basically a translation of the Vilna Gaon. It's called The Juggler and the King, and that will explain some of these beautiful Agaritas. But for now, we'll go basically through them in the manner in which we do the Daf Yomi. Amar Rabba Ishtoli Nechute Yama. So Rabba said, and that's why one of the reasons why it's here, he said, the sailors of the sea told me. And when you're in the sea, you could see the greatness of God. You're not bound by the land. You could see the expanse of God's creation. So they said, "Hi Gawa the mitbolasvina, those waves that destroy the ship, mischaze kitzitusa denura chivarta beresha." They look to me. You see at the top of them. You can see on the top of them, kitzitusa denura chivarta beresha. I could see sparks of fire. A white fire appearing on the head of the pile, and that is the I can see basically sparks of white fire appearing on the top of the wave, and that's the angel that's destroying angel. And how do we get rid of this strong wave that will destroy a ship? That we have to strike this wave with a ship that has engraved on it 3 of the names of God. The name Ekya, Asher Ekya, I will be that I will be, which is one of the names of God. Ka Hashem Tzivakos, and also the name of Ka and Hashem Tzivakos. Amen, Amen, Selah. If you do that, then the wave will rest. Second story, Amarabba Ishtali Nechuta Yama. The sailors told me, Bengala Gala Tlas Mea Parsi, that between one wave and another, they once saw a wave, between one wave and the other, it was a distance of 300 parsings. Viruma de Gala Tlas Mea Parsi. And the height of this wave was 300 parsings. Zim Nechada Avazlinan Borcha. One time we were going along the road, Udalinan Gawa, and the wave threw me so high, until I saw the place where the smallest star is resting. And it seemed to me that its area was like a place where you can plant 40 core of mustard seeds. If I had gone higher, I would have been burnt by its vapors. And one wave picked up its voice and shouted to the other wave, Chaverti, my friend, have you left something in the world that wasn't been destroyed so that I could come and destroy it? Meaning, say, leave something for me to destroy. He says, go out and see the power of God. God has created like a string that you can't pass. And basically God puts the sand on the banks of the river. It says the wave, and we can't go past that. Basically, I put the sand on the sea, on the side of the sea, and that is the sea can't pass it. The next story, one time I saw, and this is the story that gives the title to the book, The Juggler and the King. You'll see why. It says, one time I saw the demon Horman, the son of Lilith. Lilith was a famous demon. And this demon was running on the top of the walls of the city Mechuzah. And there was a man riding a horse, riding beneath it. And the demon was running after him. The man was oblivious, and the demon couldn't catch him. And so this is showing us that sometimes demons are attacking us. We have no idea. And Zimnachada one time, one time there was there were two mules, and on each one of them was a saddle. The Kayamin, and they were on top of 73B. Atrei Kishari Derugnav. And these mules were each standing on one side on two bridges that were on the river called Rognav. Vishavar Mehaila Mehaila. And this demon was jumping from one mule to another. He's holding two cups of wine in his hand. And kept pouring it from one to the other. Well, not funny, and not even a single drop would fall to the ground. Also, Ayom, that day, Yahu Shamayim Yardu Tomos. On that day, Yahu Shamayim Yardu Tomos. And that day, even though that was the day that there was a huge storm, and that was causing all the ships to be tossed around. Nevertheless, he didn't spill a drop of wine on the earth. He was juggling the wine, basically pouring wine from one cup to the other. Until the king of the demons heard what one of the demons was doing, and he killed him. And obviously, like I said, this is a story that we have to go into the depths of it. But you see that on a simple level, we go through our life, we don't realize the dangers that are around us, that Hashem Yisbarach is protecting us from. One time I saw this is a mythical creature, the Re'im. I saw a Re'im, this giant creature, on the day it was born, and the Havik Kahar Tabor. It was the size of Mount Tabor. It's like a deep idea here. A baby on the day they're born, they have this potential. Their potential is unlimited, like Mount Tabor. Kahar Tabor Kamahavi. How big was Mount Tabor? Arba parse. Har Tabor was 4 parsangs. Umashaka Ditzavre, and the length of this neck of this Re'im creature was Tlasa parse. It was 3 parsangs. Ube Marbasa Deresha, and when it was lying on the ground, the place where it put its head was Parso Palga, was 1.5. The Rama Kufta, and when it went to the bathroom, Sakar Lele Yardana, it went to the bathroom with such a force that it stopped up the Jordan River. I once saw this frog that was so big, it was the size of the city that was called Akra Dagrunya. Akra Dagrunya Kamehavia. How big was this city? It was Shitin, but it was 60 houses. Also Tanina Boe, a Tanina, like a crocodile or a sea creature, came and swallowed up this frog. Also Pushkansa Boa Tanina, came along a female raven and swallowed this crocodile. Vasalak Yosef Bilana, and the raven went up and sat in the tree. Talchazi Kamen Nafish Chele Dilana, come and see the size of this tree, that it was able to hold such a giant raven. Amar Papa Bar Shmuel, Ilo Have Hasam Lo Hamid Lo Hamne. If I wasn't there, I never would have believed it. What does that mean? It means that it really happened. But maybe he's just saying I saw it in the dream also. I don't know. Amar Rav Barchana says, one time I was walking along on the ship. I was going on the ship. Chasina Kavra Tiyasule and Acha Tina Buusaya. One time I was walking along the ship, and we saw a giant fish that a small insect was on its nostrils, and it killed this giant fish. And therefore the sea took out this giant fish and threw it onto the side of the water. And as a result of this giant fish landing on the land, it destroyed Shitim Mechuzi, 60 cities. And the people ate from this meat of this fish, and while it was still fresh, and it fed 60 cities. And then they took the rest of the meat and they salted it, and they fed another Shitim Mechuzi, another 60 cities. And they took from one of its eyes, and they were able to fill up 300 barrels of oil. And when we went back to this place after 12 months, we saw that they were taking from its bones and building like houses or sheds. And they went back to build those same cities that were destroyed. Again, it's a deep story. The thing that's your destruction ultimately be your building project, your renovation. Amar Rabbi Baruchana, Zimna Chada v'Kazlina b'Sfinta. One time I was walking along the ship, the Chazina Ukavra, Diasule Chalsa Agabe, and we saw that there was this. Now, this is the punchline of the story, but I'll tell it to you. But imagine that they didn't know this. They saw a fish. They didn't know it was a fish. And there was so much sand on it. I mean, it was a giant fish, and there was sand that was growing on it. And there was, on the sand, there was stuff growing. So Savrina Yabalshtahi, they thought it was a dry land. The Salkinon, the Afinon, Ubashlinon Agbe. So we stopped, we went on it, and we started cooking on the land. We thought we were on an island. And when the cooking was heated up the back of the fish, it got hot, so it flipped over, went into the water. If it weren't for the fact there's another ship nearby, we would have drowned. We see from here this is also a very deep story, because lots of times we think we're on an island, we think we're secure, we think we have everything we need. But then when things get hot, we realize it's a fish, and it flips us over. And then if we don't have a ship nearby, we'll sink. And what is our ship? What's the ship of our life? Of course, that's the Torah. The Torah is the ship to guide us through life. So we have to be careful to recognize what's really an island and what's just the slippery back of a fish. One time I was going along on a ship. And one time we were going along in the ship, and the ship was sailing between one fin, between a fish, and from one fin of the fish until the other fin of the fish. That's how the ship was sailing, and it took to go from one end of the fin to the other 3 days and 3 nights. And all of this was iu bizakifa. All of this when the fish was going in one direction, va'anan bishipua. We were going one direction, the fish was going in the other direction, and still it took 3 days to go from one end of the fish to the other. And if you want to say, well, our ship was a slow fish, no, it was a super fast ship, said Rav Dimi. The time it took to heat up a pot of water, this fish could travel 60 parsings. Vishade parasha gira v'kadmai. And if you would shoot an arrow, the ship could outsail the arrow. This fish that he's talking about, his name was the Gildana, and it is one of the smallest fishes in the sea that have 2 fins. And still it was so giant. See how great God's works are. One time we're going on the ship. One time we're going along the ship, and we saw a bird that was standing in the water, and the face of the water came, basically the top of the water came up to its ankles. And the top of the fish was standing in the sky. So we thought, oh, the fish is standing up to its ankles. Amrina Lake Amaya. There must be water must not be deep there. And then we needed to go into the water to cool ourselves off. The Nafik Baskova, a voice came out, heavenly voice, and said, don't swim here. Because 7 years ago, an axe fell from this carpenter into the water here, and we still haven't found it. Still never hit the bottom. But that's not just because the water was so deep. The current was so strong there. And Amar Ravashi, Hahu Ziz Sadayu. The name of this bird was called the Ziz Sadai bird. The Ziz Sadai Imadi, as it says in Psalms 50. The Ziz Sadai was with me. One time I was in the wilderness. Excuse me. Another beautiful story coming up right now. One time we were in the wilderness and we saw Hanu Ivaze Deshamte Gadfayo Mishamnayo. We saw these geese that their feathers were falling out because they were so fat. Vekonagdi Nachle the Mishla Mitutayu. And underneath them were coming from underneath them were flowing rivers of oil from their fat. And Amino, I said to them, Islan are we going to get a share of you in the world to come? For one of them lifted up its wings, and the other goose lifted up its thigh. And both of them were showing us that we were going to get this portion from them in the world to come. But coming to Rabbi Eliezer, and when I came in front of Rabbi Eliezer, Amrli, he said to me, we're going to be punished because they're waiting for the Mashiach, but until then they're in this pain because they keep getting fatter, and this is the geese that are waiting for us. So the reward is going to be great for us, but we're going to be punished because we delayed the Mashiach coming, and we delayed thereby those who are waiting to help us, and they're in distress. So now a simon to remember the next few stories is Ka'afra, Titzchilta, Terakte, Akraba, Lasilte, Amarav, Varchana, Zimna Chada, Vakazlina, Vimidbar. One time we were going in the wilderness, Vislave, Bahadana, Hutaya. And came along to escort us was this merchant, Arab merchant, Tavishakil Afro Morache. And he took from the earth of the ground and he smelled it. And Amar Ha-Orcho Adukta Pulan, Ha-Orcho Adukta Pulan. This is the way to this place, and this is the path to this place. We said to him, how far are we from the water? Amarlan, give me the earth and I'll smell it. He said, we're 8 parsings away. We walked a little bit. We went back and we gave it to him again. He said, now we're 3 parsings away. And I switched it around and I tested him. And we couldn't catch him. Meaning to say, he really knew how to smell the earth. So actually, we'll stop the recording here. We can go on a few more minutes. We'll stop the recording.